Okay, so here is an integral that we're going to work on. It's the integral from 0 to 1 of 1 plus e to the x over the square root of x plus e to the x dx. And it looks very complicated. So there's certainly no rule that covers any expression that looks like that. You know, it's a quotient, but there's no quotient rule. There's got a square root in it. But again, nothing there that is immediately obvious as to how you should proceed. But if you do look at this, what we can say is that if we differentiate the expression on the bottom, or at least part of the expression on the bottom, the part that's under the square root sign, x plus e to the x, we get 1 plus e to the x. So again, differentiating one part of the expression, the x plus e to the x, gives a different part of the expression, 1 plus e to the x. And therefore, that's what we should let our u be the bit that differentiates. So that should be u. Okay, so that's where we'll begin from. So let u equals x plus e to the x, and then du dx is equal to 1 plus e to the x. So du would be 1 plus e to the x dx, and to get dx on its own, divide by du. You get divide by 1 plus e to the x, and you get dx is equal to du over 1 plus e to the x. Okay, so the two parts that are important so far are this, our u-substitution, and our substitution for dx. Now, this is definite integration, so we have choices here. We can change the limits or we can ignore the limits. And in this case, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore the limits at the start, and then we'll bring them back in at the end. It doesn't matter. We're not asked for the intermediate steps here, so we can do it whichever way we choose, and I'm going to choose to just ignore the limits. Okay, so ignoring the limits gives us this scenario here. It becomes the integral from 1 plus e to the x over the square root of x plus e to the x dx is equal to the integral. Okay, now the bits we're replacing are the x plus e to the x on the bottom and the dx. So that leaves us with 1 plus e to the x on top over the square root of x plus e to the x. That's u. Now dx we can replace with du over 1 plus e to the x. Okay? And if you look at this, the entire top of this fraction cancels with the entire bottom of this fraction. Okay? Because they're exactly the same. And you can cancel them in that sense. So we're going to have the integral of du over the square root of u, which is the integral of u to the power of negative 1/2 du. Now don't forget to integrate. Okay, we've just rewritten it, but don't forget to integrate. So increase the power by 1, that'll be u to the power of 1/2, divided by the new power, so divided by 1/2, and then plus c. Okay, well, that's going to be equal to u was x plus e to the x, and this is the square root of that, so it's the square root of x plus e to the x, and you're going to divide by 1/2. Well, dividing by 1/2 is the same as multiplying by 2, so it's going to be 2 times that, plus c. Okay, so we have this indefinite integral of 1 plus e to the x over the square root of x plus e to the x dx is equal to this expression 2 times x plus e to the x plus c. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put limits on it, and just as a little reminder, just look back at the question again. The limits were from 0 to 1. Okay, so we're going to integrate now from 0 to 1. So we want to have the integral from 0 to 1 of 1 plus e to the x over the square root of x plus e to the x dx is going to be equal to 2 times the square root of x plus e to the x. We're going to drop the plus c because we have limits now, so drop the plus c, and we're going to go from 0 to 1. And that's going to give you 2 times the square root of 1 plus e to the 1 minus 2 times the square root of 0 plus e to the 0. And it's going to be 2 times the square root of 1 plus e to the 1 is just e, minus 2 times the square root. 0 is nothing, e to the 0 is 1. Okay, so that's simply going to be 2 times the square root of 1 plus e minus 2, and if you want to, you can factor the 2 out. You get 2 times the square root of 1 plus e minus 1. Okay, and that's your answer. And to go from 0 to 1 of 1 plus e to the x over the square root of x plus e to the x dx is equal to 2 times the square root of 1 plus e minus 1. Okay, and hopefully you're able to follow that, and you just got to be patient because they take a long time to do, and there are a couple of different parts to it, and you have to be very careful at every part, but hopefully you're able to do it okay. The other way of doing it would be to change your limits earlier on, which is perfectly fine as long as you end up with the same answer. Okay, thanks for watching.